Welcome back to Definitely Not Definitive. I'm Ken.
And I'm Bethany.
And we're just a rambunctious couple in love that loves reacting to some RWBY.
Yes, we do.
And so this is RWBY World of Remnant. So we're going to check out some stuff leading into Volume 4 and learn some more about the RWBY world. And if you want all of our RWBY reactions, check out the description of this video. We got a playlist there. We got a link to our Patreon, get early ad-free access. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay, we learned about the different places. It's a little big.
Well, school's definitely out. But let's see if we can't all learn a little something. Welcome to the world of Remnant. Not the best place to live, but depending on where you're staying, it can get a little easier. You've got towns and villages that pop up as fast as they fall. The faunas have menagerie, but the sweet spots are Vale, Mistral, Atlas, and Vacuo. The four kingdoms of the modern era, and each one's special in its own little way.
Hey, like little Monopoly
Let's
houses.
talk about Vale. In the grand scheme of things, Vale's pretty well guarded. It rests on the northeastern end of the world's largest continent, Sanus. Like most successful kingdoms, Vale's survival over the years can mostly be attributed to prime real estate. Its front is protected by steep mountains, and its back is against waters too shallow for any real threat to pop out of. Not to say I haven't heard some crazy fish stories. Aside from the main city, which the kingdom's named after, the Vale territory also extends to several neighboring cities farther along the northwest coastline, as well as a small island named Patch. Nice place to raise a family, if you're into that sort of thing. Of course, all attempts to extend the kingdom's reach past the mountains and farther into the mainland have been colossal failures. But, like I said, in the grand scheme of things, Vale ain't half bad. Regular climate, natural barriers, and some serious border defenses means the citizens of Vale can spend less time worrying about survival and more time just living their lives. Of course, with the fall of Beacon, everyone's a little more worried these days.
Yep, good reason.
Should be.
You should be.
Right, where were we? The east of Sanus is Remnant's second largest landmass, Anima. That's where you'll find the kingdom of Mistral. Of the four kingdoms, Mistral has the most controlled territory, meaning you'll find a wider variety of ecosystems and lifestyles. Trust me, this place is something for everyone, for better or worse. The high society folks of Mistral are known worldwide for their contributions to fashion, architecture, theater, all the things that make the world pretty and tolerable. But its lower class has got a fame of its own. Mistral's home to the biggest black market on the planet. Need something that's hard to find? Got someone that's hard to kill? They can help, provided you've got the lien to pay for it. There's one common thread that links all these people together, though, and that's their respect for nature, particularly the sea and the sky. The natural resources and geography of the area impacted Mistral's culture and technology in a big way. Its first settlers found shelter high up in the wind-carved cliffs, and as their population grew, so did their ability to utilize the land to its fullest potential. Real bunch of forward thinkers. Of course, the bigger the kingdom, the harder it is to govern. There's a reason traders and thieves flock to Mistral. The main city's right under the council's eye, sure, but places like Windpath and Kuchinashi start to get a little farther out of sight. There's plenty of places to hide in Mistral. That's why you got I suppose it's time we talked about the fine people at the top of the world. Atlas is Remnant's youngest and arguably most successful kingdom, but it's a bit of a special case. See, before the Great War, there was no Atlas. There was Mantle. At some point in time, a group of settlers were crazy enough to venture out into the northernmost continent of Solitas. I guess when you're that desperate, a frozen hunk of rock doesn't seem like such a bad place to call home. As a matter of fact, the harsh weather conditions proved to be just as useful as the mountain ranges when it came to keeping the creatures of Grimm at bay. But it also kept the people of Mantle from flourishing. Humanity's got a neat trick up its sleeve, though. Whenever we're faced with a problem, our inclination is to find a solution. The cold climate of Solitas forced its settlers to adapt. They developed a more advanced technology, and they did it faster than the rest of the world. Because they had to survive. But it was the Great War that really kicked things off. New forms of dust application and weaponry allowed Mantle to expand. More and more territory was set aside for dust mining and research. The territory beside the kingdom's combat school, Alceus, was the most opportune area to construct a new R&D facility. But by the time things were all said and done, it would be much, much more. Alceus was reopened as Atlas after the Great War to house many of the warriors now seeking guidance. In an effort to give back to the citizens, Mantle applied all sorts of new dust techniques and technologies it had used in the war to beef up the Academy's campus. The school grounds expanded faster than they could have imagined, and even helped to better secure the surrounding areas. It wasn't long before the kingdom's military moved in, then the labs and research facilities, and eventually even residential areas started popping up. In time, it became apparent that the city of Mantle was living in Atlas' shadow, and so the decision was made to move the kingdom's capital. Mantle was old news, and the kingdom of Atlas was born. A golden age of prosperity, they called it. But those left behind in Mantle would probably tell you that it was the coldest winter they ever knew. Now, if there's one kingdom that's had it harder than the people of Mantle, it's Vacuo, the last of the four great kingdoms. The western end of Sanus is a barren and desolate wasteland. But long ago, before man went and ruined everything,
is that one continent just has nothing on it?
In the center of the vast desert was an oasis unlike anything you'd ever seen. A jungle bursting with natural resources, geographical defenses, and the world's largest recorded deposit of dust. Nomads that survived the journey across the scorching sands settled down in this little hidden gem, and over time the kingdom of Vacuo thrived. Unfortunately, comfort breeds weakness. While the rest of Remnant had to learn and adapt in order to survive, Vacuo's ancient society kicked back and lived a life of complacency. But when other, more developed kingdoms set their eyes on everything Vacuo had to offer, its citizens couldn't do anything to stop them from taking it. Years of human conflict, unrestricted mining, and ecological disasters have changed Vacuo. The paradise that was once there is practically indistinguishable from the surrounding deserts. Citizens live in makeshift homes, uprooting and traveling frequently in response to the fleeting resources and occasional attacks from the creatures of Grimm. After the Great War, a formal government was finally established. But by that point, the folks living in Vacuo didn't much care to uphold its laws, making Shade Academy the only real source of order in the kingdom. But order isn't everything. Vacuo may not be as prim and proper as the other three kingdoms, but it's still standing. And the people there have a mutual respect for one another. See, there's really only one unspoken rule in Vacuo. If you can survive here, then you're welcome here.
Okay.
So there you have it. Vale, Mistral, Atlas, and Vacuo. You know, Oz would always say that the four kingdoms were a representation of what mankind is capable of when working together. Ever the optimist. We sure could use him now.
I think of those places, Mistral's still my favorite because it's got the, the underworld and this the sea place. But it's also got the cool places too. You know, they get Brass Theater and architecture. And I mean, I just think, it's a fun place to go.
Yeah, I think Mistral would make sense as like the best place to visit.
Mm-hmm.
It sounds like Vale is the safest place to live.
Yeah.
So, like vacation in Mistral, go see some theater and some art. And if you have a husband who loves the underworld, he can go do that. They have a respect for nature, and they talked about like all their natural resources and conserving that I really liked in Mistral. But then, like you go to Vale, you kind of live by the sea and the mountains, you're safe. So, that's the plan.
Vale's the suburbs and Mistral's the city. And that's, just depends on where you want to go, where you want to get your dallies. So Atlas we know a little bit more about because of, what's his face? The guy that like is the commander and has
who we thought was terrible, but then he turned out to be like, okay at the end with his like shirt off G.I. Joe Rambo thing going on.
Yeah. Well, it's like kind of like RoboCop Rambo thing.
RoboCop Rambo.
Like a cyborg kind of thing going on.
Yeah.
So we knew about that, but like the other two places, I didn't really, I mean, I'm sure they've been mentioned and whatnot, but I didn't really know too much about them. So that was good to get more information.
Yeah. When I saw Vacuo, I was like, oh, I'm not even going to try to pronounce it, but I think it's Vacuo because I think I've heard them talk about it. Or like reference somebody from there or something. I mean, they just had that tournament where people were from all over. So they probably heard someone from everyone within this thing. But I can't recall who specifically was from what area. It would probably be interesting to go back and just see that. So like we could kind of, I think people develop certain traits from where they're from and whatnot. So it would be cool to see like, okay, so who was the Vacuo person? And like, is their family true Vacuo? Like, was there forever and got conquered? Or were they one of the conquerors? I just think, like, I don't know. It would be cool to place people now and figure out who is from where. I'm curious if we've met anyone from Mistral.
Yeah. I want to say Minstrel, too.
I know. It's in my head.
Yeah.
But I'm curious if we've met anyone from there because we've definitely heard Atlas talked about. That's no question. We know some people from there, but I don't really recall Mistral.
No.
And so I'm curious if we actually have met anyone from there.
Maybe. It seems like Neon would be someone from like Mistral.
Okay.
She seems like She seems like she's had some, I don't know, some culture and some theater, and she's very theatrical, and so I would say she's from there.
Definitely could be. Well, you will have to tell us if you know where certain people are from so that we can get better acquainted with putting people on our little map now that we have a map.
Exactly. Let us know what you thought about this down below in the comments. And if you want early ad-free access to our RWBY reactions, check out the description of this video. We got a link to our Patreon there. We also have a playlist there for all of our RWBY reactions. If it's the first time you're checking us out. Happy binging.
Happy binging.
Thanks so much for checking out our reaction for World of Remnant, but just keep in mind
that our reaction is definitely not definitive.